Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your space for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Tuesday, February 8th. I'm Seth Lemon.
I'm Nielle.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, why the National Archives sent employees to Donald Trump's former home to retrieve documents they say should have been left at the White House. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court sides with an Alabama congressional map that critics say hurts black voters. How the new lines will affect this year's elections and the pandemic's effects are taking a long-term toll on black lives. Why the life expectancy for some black people has decreased dramatically.
Plus, a shocking discovery for a couple that received an $18,000 bill because a utility company says they own the entire street. And the Academy has announced this year's Oscar nominations. The big nods for several black actors on the big screen.
Can't wait to hear about that. Soulmates, you know how we do it. We do it from our voice and our truth. So are you ready? Let's talk about it.
We have breaking news this Tuesday in the Amir Locke police shooting. St. Paul police, they say they have arrested Locke's 17-year-old cousin who was wanted for murder. Now, police say the teen killed a 38-year-old man in January. Investigators said the arrest is connected to the no-knock warrants that police used, you see here, to storm into the home, and that resulted in Amir Locke's death. Dually concerning, though, is that no-knock warrant might have been signed by the trial judge in the case of the cops who killed George Floyd. Sources tell Kare that Judge Peter Cahill signed the authorization, which was not intended to be executed without knocking. Amid the controversy, Minneapolis's mayor has put a freeze on the use of these too often deadly warrants. City Council there met yesterday to review the issue. They are expected to hear testimony this week from civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, academics, and criminal justice experts. No-knock warrants have been severely scrutinized since the 2020 shooting death of Breonna Taylor by Louisville, Kentucky police. But here we have yet a case of mistaken identity, a grave mistake that senselessly claimed a life. And one thing that stands out to me is Breonna Taylor is not the person that they were after in that warrant initially. Neither was Amir Locke. And both of these lives have been lost now because of police and their actions.
Absolutely. I'm really happy that you brought up Breonna Taylor because we still need answers on what happened to Breonna Taylor. And so what's interesting is that it seems very eerily similar to what happened to Breonna Taylor and the same police force that killed George Floyd. So there are just so many things going through a lot of our minds. But there's a walkout that's actually happened this morning in the Twin Cities. 40 students at a high school decided to do a walkout in protest, trying to, get justice for Amir Locke and also a ban on no-knock warrants. It turned into like hundreds of students. So
yeah. And now for the family of Amir Locke, it runs a little bit deeper because now you find out it's someone that within the family that allegedly murdered someone, which is the reason why the police showed up there. Now, what they did and the reason for showing up is still wrong from what we know, right? They killed the wrong person. We know that for a fact. But now you have a family member that's also involved with this, which kind of led to this situation. So now they have to take this on as well.
And let's consider this. We know that there was an investigation happening if they went to the judge for the no-knock, which means that they knew who they were looking for. And I'm sure that they had a surveillance outside of this apartment building, so they knew who was going in and out of this apartment. So with all of that, it brings the question of, why would they bust in there? Because they had to know that the person that they were looking for was not in the house. And this is just another reason why we need police reform. And you hear terms like defund the police, because when they do have all these resources with these guns and these military tactics, it's usually black and brown people who end up as the victims.
You're right. They probably were surveilling the apartment building before they ever decided to move in. So this is one of those instances where they need to take some extra time to verify that the person they're looking for is at that specific address. And, it'll be interesting to see the pictures of these two. They're cousins. They're close in age, 17 and 22. Maybe they favor each other. Maybe they resemble each other. But it is incumbent on police officers and the department to do their due diligence to make sure that this does not happen.
Honestly, the other point is, even if this was the right person, did he deserve to die like that? Even if you were catching the cousin,
Absolutely, you're right.
or the alleged cousin, did he deserve that treatment? He was under under this bed. Amir Locke was under his blanket, minding his business. So even if they did resemble each other,
lawfully holding a gun that he was entitled to.
Exactly.
Right.
Did he even deserve the way that he was treated? That's the question.
Yeah, police reform needs to happen.
ASAP.
Absolutely.
All right, and a coalition of Minneapolis black mothers, they're calling for the city's interim police chief and the cop who killed Amir Locke to be fired. The group is demanding Mayor Frey fire the chief for her failure to lead the department. The group says the officer's body camera proves that Chief Amelia Huffman lied about what really happened during the shooting. Huffman was appointed interim chief after Madaria Arredondo, the city's first black chief who resigned last month.
Joining us now from Minneapolis to discuss the latest developments in the killing of Amir Locke are activists Nakima Levy-Armstrong and Toussaint Morrison. Welcome back to the Black Report. Both of you guys, we've checked in with you, boots on the ground, when George Floyd was murdered, Daunte Wright, and here we are again in the same position. I feel really bad for your city. So first I want to pose the question to both of you. Talk to us about the mood in the city. Demi just mentioned that there was a protest of high school students. What is the mood in the sense of the city? I'll start with you first, Toussaint.
Well, the mood in the city right now, as I know it, it's a lot of people are upset and want change and are demanding it right now. And a lot of people are very upset with the incompetence from the mayor, from the interim police chief, and then also from the media that actually took all the propaganda from the MPD, showed the gun. They went for bait and hook, that they called him a suspect, even though he wasn't. And a lot of people are extremely sick and tired.
All right, Nakima.
I would agree with Toussaint. People are sick and tired. And they're also outraged that we have yet another police chief in Minneapolis after a worldwide outcry for justice following the murder of George Floyd. And the reality is that 6 months after George Floyd, a Somali man, while he was killed by Minneapolis, and then Winston Smith, a black man, was killed by the U.S. Marshals in the city of Minneapolis. So we have dealt with trauma upon trauma upon trauma in the midst of a pandemic and all types of uncertainty. So folks are outraged, but they're also energized to stay out in the streets and to disrupt the
Right. Toussaint, I want to pivot back to you and talk to you. I know we've talked before during the protest, like I said, George Floyd, Daunte Wright. What's the mood of the police and how is the interaction right now? Because we know before there was, a little, some mishaps, but what is the mood of the police department right now?
Well, the mood of the police department right now, I would sense is that of frightened. I mean, because I've seen few to any police cars during marches, during actions. The only police interaction I know of is when we pulled up to interim police chief Amelia Huffman's house to demand that she resign, and that's the only interaction I know of right now. There was several police cars that backed off in the alleys while we were marching on Saturday. So I have known of no police interactions since then, since they've taken the life of Amir Locke.
Right. So, Nakima, I want to go to you. Now, Seth mentioned earlier that the mayor is putting a ban on no-knock warrants right now. But what do the people want to happen? Is it for the officers to be arrested, for them to be fired? What are the demands from the people right now in the city of Minneapolis?
I think that the first demand is for the city of Minneapolis to abide by what it says it's going to do. Back in November of 2020, Mayor Jacob Price claimed that he had banned no-knock warrants, which severely restricted their use. And then we found out a few days ago that officers in Minneapolis had 13 to 14 pending no-knock warrant applications since January of 2022. So something is amiss in terms of the city claiming it's changed policies, and then suddenly we find out they're not adhering to the policies. The policies haven't been implemented effectively, and then people are dying. So we want Minneapolis to be truthful about these issues, to be accountable to the public, and to take action. There's no reason why that cop should still be on the job who murdered Amir Locke, nor should interim chief Amelia Huff still be in a job after what happened. we are still left with more questions and answers. And what they did to that young man is unconscionable. It is a form of terrorism.
Toussaint, I'm going to leave the last question to you. What do you want the community, the Black community viewers right now to know about what's happening in Minneapolis? Because like I said, you guys are always there. We're always able to pull on you guys to let us know what's happening, boots on the ground. What message do you want to send right now?
The message I'd like to send is, as a young Black man watching Rodney King be beaten by police officers and then have them watch them be exonerated, psychologically what it did to me was it made me believe that I was less than, I was not of value. And so for the young Black people that are watching this and that have seen this and are seeing the media go for the propaganda and report this young man as a suspect when he was not, it's psychological. I want them to know that this is taking a psychological toll. And this is sending a message that as Black people, we're less than, when really we are not. We absolutely are not. We are of the utmost value, and we are loved, and more than all that, and we more than matter. And so I want people to know that and take that away. When police brutality and state-sanctioned violence like this occurs, I understand that it makes us feel devalued, but I don't want people to take that to heart, and also stay out in the streets, stay energized, and keep these people accountable. And as Nekima has always said, when enough is enough, we have to be out here. We have to be out here constantly to let these people know that we're demanding justice.
Thank you, Toussaint Nekima, for all that you do. Be safe in the streets, and we'll definitely check back in with the both of you.
Thank you.
Incredible interview, Niele. The Supreme Court, they're reinstating an Alabama congressional map that Democrats and voting rights groups say hurt Black voters. The 5-4 vote is provisional, and it says a lower court's order to reject the GOP map until the Supreme Court can take up the case later this year. Now, Chief Justice John Roberts joined the court's 3 liberal justices. Court experts say the court's brief order may indicate justices are open to weakening the role that race may play in drawing voting districts. So what was really interesting about this story here, because I did a deep dive, and I don't know why, I have certain stories that I just find very fascinating, is in Alabama, Black people make up about 25% of the population. And so the reason why people are upset is because Black people are only the majority in 1 district out of 7. So there are 3 other districts that are we're the minority. So there literally is a line that you can just draw to make Black people the minority in at least 2 districts. And that's why people are so upset about this.
It's interesting. The lower appeals courts had said to go back and try it again. There needs to be at least another district with a majority Black vote.
Exactly.
But it definitely signals that the conservative-leaning Supreme Court is a little wary about changes to the Voting Rights Act or what could come from them, because these conservatives are leaning more so to, in this case, Alabama Republicans.
Right, and it's no surprise, you have a conservative Supreme Court. Republicans are the ones that drew the lines, and we know that the midterms are coming up.
Yeah.
That's why it's so critical for President Biden to make his nomination for the Supreme Court justice, because we don't know how much longer Democrats will be able to hold on to Congress.
Yeah, it has major implications.
All right, so the National Archives had to do something last month that it should never have to do. Workers had to go to Mar-a-Lago, former President Trump's home, to retrieve documents that should have been left at the White House. The Presidential Records Act requires the preservation of memos, letters, notes, emails, and even faxes related to the president's official duties. Trump advisors say their boss wasn't trying to hide anything. White House aides say Trump often tore up briefings, schedules, letters, and memos. Archives officially say they had to tape back the documents together before some of them can be turned over to the January 6th Congressional Committee. 15 boxes leaves the White House to go to Florida. How are they not monitoring that, right? Some of it include letters he received from former President Barack Obama and other things that he had in there. But at the end of the day, this is important information. All this is adding up to how is it possible to allow this man to run again if he decides to run for president with all the wrong that we're seeing that's right before our eyes? If they allow him to do that, then what kind of country are we really to let that happen?
It's a question of fitness at this point. I think there are a lot of questions surrounding whether his behavior when it comes to the January 6th insurrection, when it comes to addressing people and their families, and now apparently packing up his moving truck with documents that should have been left behind at 1600 Pennsylvania. It makes you question the integrity of the person who could potentially sit in that office. And so you're right, Romeo. There's a lot of questions about fitness moving forward, but it's crazy to see the implications that are reverberating constantly from the Trump presidency.
You know, I think there are so many people that are like anti-politics, that people love this. There's a group of people that really secretly deep down inside love seeing Trump be able to get away with this, because there's no way. It's mind-blowing to so many of us who have morals, but for the rest of the people who find this fascinating, they're the people that are letting him get off time and time again, because this implies 100%, what are you hiding? Why would you need to take these boxes? No president we've ever even seen this ever before.
Yeah, we've never seen.
Who's letting, who's letting him get away with this?
He's proven to be a thief, a crook, and a liar. And the fact that he could really run for president again should scare the American people, because I believe if he gets in next time, he's not going to leave. He's going to find something to do. And so this is just another sign why the January 6th committee is so important, and we need to get the answers for the American people.
Lawmakers are back in Washington and taking another look at President's Build Back Better legislation. Now, meanwhile, government funding is expected to expire in less than 2 weeks, and Congress is eyeing a short-term spending bill. But according to West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, one bill that won't be moving forward is Biden's Build Back Better agenda, which focuses on climate and social spending. A non-negotiable red line for him is that all new programs must be permanent and fully financed.
What won't be financed, First Lady Joe Biden says she's disappointed about changes to the Build Back Better plan as Congress tries to see what compromises it can make to get the bill through. Dr. Biden says the provision to offer 2 free years of community college is no longer included in the plan. President Biden promised the legislation on the campaign trail, but he's failed to get support from all of the Senate Democrats to get it passed with their slim majority. Research shows that providing free tuition to community college lifts the enrollment rates for students who otherwise could not have afforded the expense. College is expensive. College application fees are expensive. And so this would have been something that would have helped a lot of people.
You know, we're already still struggling with trying to get money taken off our student loans. It just doesn't seem like anybody that's trying to go to college right now is able to catch a break.
Can't get a break.
At all.
I agree. At the end of the day, like, she was fighting for this. She was hoping this would happen, but it did fall through. So now it's just another bad check in the checkbox for the Biden administration, saying this is something they couldn't get done.
Campaign promises, you know.
I don't know.
All right, here's the question. Is the Defund the Police movement dead in the black community? The violence surging around the nation, especially in major cities with large black populations, has African-American politicians and community leaders asking for more policing. New York Mayor Eric Adams was elected on a Get Tough on Crime campaign, but Adams, as well as other black leaders around the country, are also calling for the reforms in their city's police departments. They want to make sure there are no violations of civil rights. Now, this is a different stance from 2020, when Black Lives Matter and its supporters called for money to be reallocated from police departments to social programs. I think that defund the police, there's nothing wrong with that slogan, and I'll tell you why. Let's consider critical race theory, which was something that a white person decided to take to Republican politicians and bring up at school boards. And now it is probably the #1 or #2 talking points for Republicans, and it's going to help them get seats in Congress, okay? Number one. So let's look at defund the police. If the Democratic Party would have taken the premise of reallocation of funds and created strong talking points around it, this could be a viable component for Democrats to run on, reimagining our police department. Seth, I'm going to let you have it.
Yeah, just because we've talked about this. Messaging is important. And while I think you and I agree that defunding is not in full, it's in part, it's the messaging that seems to fall flat. The reason that Joe Biden seems to have skirted into the White House is because he was able to portray himself as a moderate, but defund, those taglines are keys for conservatives who find those talking points and press them in, but it does damage to the message that is more important overall.
Absolutely.
So if they had said reallocating, hey, we could have got a new SAT word in people's vocabulary, and point the message in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Right,
I think
but
the problem. I think the problem is that
Democratic
defunding the police was a good catchphrase, and it sounded good.
It
was
sounds
new.
good.
It was new. It was fresh. But there was nothing about defunding the police that really, like you said, had a backbone, and so people didn't tie into it.
Yeah.
Refunding, like you said, reallocating is
Is a
something that
much
people
better-
can
But-
get behind.
And I'm going to end it on this note. At the end of the day, Black Lives Matter defunded many police departments across
But not
this nation. They
permanently.
literally did it before it was even a catchy
But
phrase.
not permanently. And the message was hard for us to take, well,
If-
not for us, for
if
Democrats
the
to take a
Democratic
majority
Party would
in the
have put
midterm
it-
elections.
If the Democratic Party would have done a better job at taking that message and doing better with it, like the Republican Party
I don't know
did
any
with critical
defund
race
candidates
theory,
who
it would be
won their
totally
last
different.
election.
The Democratic Party is horrible at
All right, we got to move on. We got to move on.
Let's go.
Romeo.
Let's
Hey,
go.
I'm on the sideline. I got my popcorn for this one. I was loving that. All right, we'll definitely come back to that for sure. Now, Senators Joe Manchin and Lisa Murkowski are working on a bipartisan bill that would overhaul a law that Donald Trump tried to use to overturn the 2020 election. Manchin says he is confident the rewrite of the Electoral Count Act will pass the Senate. The West Virginia senator says news of the former president's plot to exploit vagueness in the law is making it easier to fix that law. The new bill will make clear that a vice president has no power to reject state electors. It would also make it clear that state legislators cannot be appointed after Election Day in an effort to overturn a state's election results.
The mother of Freddie Mckee, a black man killed in Missouri, says police failed to investigate her son's death in 2020. At worst, she believes there was foul play, tantamount to a cover-up over his death by the police department, and initially ruled an overdose. Now there's conflicting evidence, 2 toxicology reports that had conflicting conclusions. Freddie's mother has filed a complaint with the city's Civilian Review Board, pointing out how her son had multiple cuts and bruises when his body was found.
Love White Children stickers are popping up around Collierville, Tennessee. Now, the stickers have a QR code attached to them that links to a group chat for a white supremacist group on Telegram. Now, Telegram is an instant messaging site with separate sections for private groups. Stickers supporting white supremacist themes were also found in local parks.
Former Georgia Democrat Vernon Jones is quitting his state's race for governor and will now run for the House of Representatives. The decision gives ex-U.S. Senator David Perdue a better chance to win the governor's race. Jones, who is a Trump supporter, is endorsing Perdue over current Governor Brian Kemp, who is running for re-election. Stacey Abrams is running for governor for the second time.